Hello everyone, it's Sam again here from Marketing Meanders with Sally and Sam, and I've got another question or a point, I suppose, to put to people really. The question is something which I'm doing a poll on, which is about time and budget. So this is for marketers, and it's specifically a very simple question really. If you could have more time or budget, which would you choose? I'm imagining that you've all immediately, perhaps not all of you, okay, let's say 80% of you, and let's see if this bears out with the poll. I think 80% of you have just said, gone in your head, time. I'm pretty sure of that, actually. I'm quite confident on this one. And I think that because of, well, various information I've seen over the years, and feedback on discussions in forums and from my colleagues and myself, that actually time is one of the most precious commodities, really. Unless we're in a business where we're really struggling for budget, to get hold of enough budget to do anything meaningfully, or there's really difficult, constricted financial times where we've had our budget taken away. Most of the time, I would say, most of the time, you would want more time. And it's an interesting one, isn't it? Because on the one hand, to get more budget, you perhaps have to submit a proposal to the finance director, or to, if it's a small business, to yourself, to your accountant, to your business manager, to justify to yourself that you need to speculate, to accumulate, you need to invest more money in said project, campaign, whatever it might be, or in general in marketing. So usually you have to fight quite hard for that. It can take time to make that happen, and therefore you've then also got to justify, was that budget worthwhile, was that additional budget worthwhile, in terms of what it enabled you to do. But that is a more involved process, I would argue. I don't think you're necessarily just going to go off and say, oh well, let's just add another £10,000 to this budget because we just feel we need it. You might have some contingency, etc., to be able to use, but typically it's going to be slightly harder to get hold of substantially more budget, and enable you to do more things with it. But time, right here, right now, today, you could give yourself more time. But I think it's a more involved question in terms of not just spending more time, more of your day working on whatever it is you're working on. It's more about the usage of your time, of course. I mean, we all say we need more time, but what do we actually mean by that? We mean that we have too much to do, basically. There are too many tasks to fit into the time that we have allotted to spend on our work. And this really, I think, for marketers in particular, it's just interesting because I've just been recording some videos about customer acquisition and then conversion, and where the split of time and energy is actually focused. But I think this is, to a certain extent about time management, yes, but also more about the ways in which we decide to spend our time. So in fact, even taking time to create enough time to have time, almost. I know I've said time too many times. Good grief, said it again. But what I mean is, it's the idea about you're doing a standard set of procedures and practices in running your campaigns. You may test quite a lot, you may try different things, but effectively, I think you've got to ask yourself the question: these tasks that you're doing to produce X result, your objective, you're satisfying a strategy. It may be that you've actually given yourself too much to deliver in said strategy. So on the sort of operational side, you are trying to put in all these resources. You've actually got perhaps even too much budget that you need to spend. You need to get campaigns out the door. You need to be busy. You need to be doing things. You need to be generating leads. You need to be driving sales. You need to be reporting on campaigns. And perhaps you're trying to do too much. You're going to be asked to do a lot by other people. That's never going to change. Sales teams, bosses, other people, the board, whoever it is, you're going to have these demands on your time. That's never going to go away. Budget may come and go. It may increase, it may decrease. You can try to get more, or you're obviously usually going to want more, and you're going to want to spend it up. But the thing is, your time, it's you have a fixed amount of time in your work, unless you change your working hours. But you have more of the power. You have more of the agency to decide what you're going to actually spend that time doing. And I think most of us get into a bit of a rut where we know that we're doing, this campaign following this strategy, and therefore we need to do X, Y, and Z. We need to do this, we need to do that, we need to do that. We don't often ask people to justify why they're asking us to do something. Perhaps we just have to say, well, we just need to do it because that person's a senior person and says we have to do it. Or we feel ourselves that, this is just what we do. We just spend the time, investing in building massive Twitter campaigns, or we spend a lot of time on continually tweaking the website pages, which we don't think are performing as well. There are certain things we have to do, but it's more of a usage of focusing on what gives you the most value from your time, really. And whilst I predicted that 80% of you would say, I need more time, I'd rather have more time than more budget, I also think that most people, if you ask yourself the question properly, if you actually pause, so you're investing your own time to try and sort this out, or to try and help you do this on a regular basis. It's not just a one-off, I'm just going to have an epiphany that, oh my goodness, I spend so much time on this, and this, X, Y, and Z activities, which actually aren't as important and don't yield as much in terms of a return on my time, and they don't have a value, and I'm just going to change that from here on in, and I'm never going to do this and this and this anymore, or I'm going to ignore emails for 3 days in the middle of the week, whatever it might be. You will have you should have regular questioning of yourself and your team, if you manage a team, about how you spend your time, because that's the most, as we've identified, I'm presuming 80% of you think that's the most precious commodity you have, more important than budget. Your time is more important, it's more precious, but we either waste it or we just don't value it enough. And because we don't value it enough, we don't actually invest it in the right things, and we're terribly scared of stopping doing something because we have either agreed to do it, or it's because we've always done these things. We just do this stuff, and this is how it needs to go. But I would encourage a regular, and I mean a really properly regular time, when you actually set a space of time aside to say, what's the value in this? What's the value in that? How are these things? Because it will enable you to just understand how these things are contributing towards your greater strategy, your greater goal. And if something can't really justify itself, I mean, it could be a speculative long-term thing, which you think, no, it's worthwhile spending my time in this, then fine. You might say that you do have a pocket of time for that. But in relation to everything else, it's all got to be in context with all the rest of the time you're spending. And again, I think it's a typical thing where if you always think, gosh, we're always so reactive in our marketing, we're always having to just come up with a campaign here or there, or plug this hole, plug this gap, do this, do that, rather than being able to follow your plan consistently, which has a reasonable amount of time and contingency time allotted around it, not just contingency budget, contingency time, then you're just going to carry on being like that unless you have to do the very thing you're trying to find more of. It's like speculating to accumulate with your time, speculating to accumulate with investment of budget, speculating to accumulate in terms of time. And that's what I would encourage, particularly in marketing teams. I know all teams are very pressed for time and very busy, but it's something I really pick up on a regular basis with marketing individuals and marketing teams. It's taking the time out, investing that time to then accumulate and actually access more time, because you're hopefully focusing on the things which are more important, and you're not being afraid to let things go. That's what I thought I'd share with you today. I'd be fascinated to see if my poll actually produces the 80-20 result. I'm presuming between time and budget. I don't know. It might do, it might not. We shall soon see, and I shall update you on that. And I may have egg on my face, but I don't know. I might be on the right tracks. Anyway, love to hear what you think. Love to have comments. Love to have some ideas and techniques of things that you do to manage your time more effectively and invest your time more effectively. So please do let me and Sally know, and we might pick it up in a future podcast. Thank you very much indeed for your time today. Goodbye.